Is Truthology open to people outside of Australia, or is it really just for Australians?
We've actually recently just had people joining from the UK, South Africa, New Zealand, Germany, all over the place. The paperwork that we have in terms of handling debt is applicable for here and New Zealand now. And now our head administrator Lloyd is now looking at getting it ready for the UK
Okay.
because they're all from the same base law, but they've all got slightly different acts and statutes that we need to refer to.
Yeah. And as an education platform, I think you've done a great job. You know, it's I can tell you from experience that I spent 6 months, and at times it was like you, 12, 14, 16-hour days on the internet researching and having my head blown away time and time again. But you've actually been able to sort of condense the necessary knowledge, and I think it's a really good starting point for people. So if you do not know anything about the subject, if you do not know anything about the straw man, if you do not know anything about the fraudulent banking and financial systems, then this is a great education resource. Mark's done a really good job in setting it up into modules that build upon one another. And you can get the education that took me 6 months. You can get that in a week if you're dedicated and to sit there, or less really. But to give yourself a chance to digest it, you could do it in a week. So I want to recommend it. I really do. I think you've done a great job, and you explain it very, very well. Simply, it's not too convoluted, and you are passionate. I get that. And you see the bigger picture as well, which is nice. And you're not coming from a place of anger or revenge, which unfortunately a lot of people down this road are.
Yeah.
You're about community and helping people, and I just really want to acknowledge you for that, because I see a lot of anger. I see a lot of anger down this road.
Yeah, and there is some very prominent people in Australia that want to fight the system. They really are quite aggressive and want to fight it. And if you do that, you've got to understand, Lisa, they've got guns and battens and a very corrupt court system, and they will squish you, and that's happened. There's been a couple of the freedom fighters here in Australia have been incarcerated for 12 days and 14 days without charge, beaten up, all sorts of stuff. But I have to say they've almost drawn that on. Not almost, they have drawn that on. When I go to court, I go with a smile on my face. I go to have some fun. I go to test out a few things, and I have to say, in a cheeky way, I think some of the magistrates and judges that have come up with me have enjoyed the experience as well, because they're used to just what they would see as fodder coming through all day through the sausage factory, telling them what to do. And so for somebody to actually challenge them and ask them questions, a few of them have got hot under the collar, and I've sort of backed them into a corner a few times. But I think at the end of the day, they would have maybe enjoyed a gin and tonic and gone, well, that was interesting what happened today. And we just need more people asking these questions. One of the things you've said a couple of times, Lisa, is that I picked up on, is that it's a fraudulent system. And I have felt that way for a long time, probably until about the last 6 weeks, when I've really come to the understanding that it's not a fraudulent system. We are ignorant, and we are applying ourselves to. It might be deceptive, but I don't know how fraudulent it is, because we apply for a tax file number, and to apply means to beg.
Mm.
We apply for an Australian business number. We apply to want to be part of that system. The banks don't hide that they make money out of nothing. We acquiesce, and we go and sign application to beg forms for it. So
I say fraud because I believe the very foundation of it is based on a fraud, which is that I am dead. That's a
yes,
lie.
yes,
That I am not a living, breathing, spiritual, sentient being.
yes,
It's based on the fact that I am a dead, empty vessel.
yes,
And because that's a lie, the system is based on a fraud. That's what I mean by that. And
yeah.
absolutely, my cooperation is due to my own ignorance, completely.
So
I
that's what we joinder ourselves to. That's what they want you to do, is joinder yourselves to that, and it's through our ignorance that we do that. So it's really a matter of collapsing that understanding. You now coming with true knowledge and understanding and saying, I'm now with knowledge, and I'm asking you to stop and correct those records because I'm now with knowledge that I am a spirit-filled sentient being. I only report to one master. I don't need to report to you, and re-establishing yourself as a living being. Um, there's been a really big shift, I have to say, even just in the last 6 to 8 weeks for me to come to that conclusion.
And
It's not
I'm
them.
quite confident I know where your shift has come from because I've been heavily involved in that as well, and we'll be talking to him publicly too.
Yeah, I've been studying trust law for about 12 months through people like Christian Walters and a few others. But definitely the chap that you and I are talking about now has uncovered some information that even in that trust law study arena has been pretty huge, and it does bear bring to bear that we have been ignorant through all of this. We've been ignorant and we've been the one playing the game. But the exciting thing is that it seems to be coming down rapidly. I don't know about you, Lisa, and the listeners, but even just the last 3 to 4 weeks has been a huge acceleration in information that I'm being able to absorb. I'm sleeping far less, but I'm okay with that. I definitely feel a super big increase just in the last little while. And apparently the 9th of March, it's about to amp up again for everybody, the Mayan stuff. So
The other thing
buckle
that's
up.
amped up lately that I can vouch for is what seems to be desperation on the parts of the banks. They are on selling credit card and personal loan and mortgage, well, not so much mortgages, they take you to court for those, but personal loans and credit cards, they are selling them on if you're 2 months behind in your payments. I mean, normally you'd get a couple of late payment notices, they'd hold on to it and drag you around and try and negotiate with you for a couple of years before they sold your debt on. Now, you miss a payment and you're gone.
Yeah.
There, half a dozen people this week alone, it's now Friday, since Monday, that I know of, have received writs, statements of claim, warrants, notice of on sale of debt, some people 2, 3 and 4 things in the past week. It seems to go in cycles. The phone calls from the credit card companies or the debt collectors that had gone silent for a few months, they've all amped up again this week. It's like they all know something's coming as well, and they're trying to get in there and get whatever they can before it comes down. That's what it feels like to me, because the last ditch effort.
Yes. Well, we've probably done over 300 matters now, and we've only had two mortgages subpoenaed to court. No one else has been summoned to court. They've mostly all been on-sold to debt collectors, and we've got a letter that we send debt collectors that every time sends them running because people need to understand that a debt collector is what they call a third-party interloper. You have no contract with them. That's like if you lent me $100, Lisa, and I didn't pay you, you then going to get your friend, say Linda, to come and chase the $100 from me. I don't have any contract with Linda. I might have a contract with you, and that's what a debt collector is. So we've got a very big legal letter that we send debt collectors, and seems to get them scurrying. And ordinarily, a debt collector will buy that debt for 10 cents in the dollar, which is at most through fractional reserve lending what it would have cost the bank in the first place. So the bank's not hard. But yeah, look, there is. We unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, we've only had 2 clients been summoned to court, and that's only happened in the last couple of weeks for their mortgages. All the credit cards have gone away. They get a few nasty letters for a couple of months and maybe a few calls from debt collectors, and then they go away. No statements, no nothing. But I am aware of a couple of people, and you and I know one, that have some things going through the court at the moment for mortgages. And there's a lot of exciting stuff happening there, like being able to do a QSIP search, which is CUSIP, and that's a search you can do that will give you evidentiary material that that the loan has been securitized, which means you can demand to see who has the bill, the alleged bill or the alleged agreement, because they need to come to court with what they call prima facie or forensic evidence. Show me the contract that has your signature and my signature on it, and if you can prove that they've securitized it, there's been quite a few cases in the United States, at least, that have been dismissed. So,
because what that essentially means is the bank that's coming after you doesn't own the debt anymore. They've sold it on. They are acting as a middleman, and they actually have no right to sue you.
That's correct.
The person who actually owns the debt is the one with the right to sue you. But
Yeah, that's correct.
because you didn't even have a contract with the person who may now own the debt, You had
Yeah.
no knowledge of the fact that it was on-sold, so there's no disclosure. There's a number of things there that a number of avenues that people can use to argue their case.
Two of the main ones, Lisa, just quickly would be, um, where did the money come from? We ask, when we write our letters, we've got a four-stage administration process, and the first letter is a request for better and further particulars, and we say, great, show us where the money came from, show us a contract, and then answer a few questions about the establishment of money. Because if people watch, I guess, Zeitgeist 2, the addendum, Money Masters is a good one, they'll understand that when they create money, they create a certain amount of principal. So if they charge you interest on the principal, there's a very simple mathematical question. Where does the interest come from? The answer is that it can only come from the establishment or the release of more principal. So if all the loans around the world were to be called in now, it is mathematically impossible for them to be paid. And if that's the case, it's unreasonable. It's an unconscionable contract. How can you create a contract that is impossible to fulfill?
Yes.
Does that make sense? It's
Yes.
absolutely mathematically impossible. So what I would ask people is this: if at the end of World War II, there were roughly 2 billion people on planet Earth, and now, 80 years later, there are roughly 6.5 billion people, and all of those people are living under rooftops, and all of those rooftops are about 14 times more expensive than they were at the end of World War II, where did all that money come from? That's a lot of money. So people really need to understand about the creation of money. And this is one of the big court cases in America many years ago, where the judge actually said only God has the power to create something out of nothing. So it's audacious, the fact that they can create money out of nothing and then charge you interest on it. It's I'm looking forward to going to court in the next little while because I'll be saying to the judges, do you want to be seen as a war criminal in the future? Because this is one of the biggest crimes against humanity. There are people killing themselves, families falling apart, all sorts of stuff, and this will definitely be seen as one of the biggest crimes against humanity. So
I agree. I
yeah.
agree.
So they're the questions that we asked that the banks to date have never answered. Never, ever once have they even attempted to answer some of these questions.
No, well, they can't, because to do so would be to expose the fraud.
Mm-hmm.
Catch-22 for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, to our audience, it is truthology.org.au. There is a link on my website at lisamharrison.com. You can use that to go straight there. I really want to thank you for talking to me today. Is there anything else that you want to leave people with or make sure that they understand?
I think you'd have to summarise by saying it really is people's responsibility to make the effort to find out what's been going on and make the effort about the very positive solutions that they can have. One of the things that we're doing, Lisa, is talking a lot about community, and community doesn't have to be geographically restrained to just going out and moving on a farm. It can be a whole heap of people that get together from opposite sides of the city that just catch up once a fortnight and maybe share produce, share ideas, and just have their kids get together. We really have created a society of individuals, and that's what they want. How many people don't even know who their neighbour is? They don't even know. They maybe have a bit of an uncomfortable wave when they're putting the bins out on a Thursday morning, but nobody really sort of mixes together. So we're very community-based, and we're excited. We've got a big meeting this Sunday with about 100 people coming from all over the country because we've found some land that we want to move to. And it's not running away, it's running to. There's no thought that it'll be a utopian, we'll all sit around and make love and pick berries. I mean, I'm sure there'll be some of that going on. But you know what? But things will come up, and we want them to come up. Because we all, people watch 7 hours of TV and self-medicate every night to go to sleep. Their issues don't come up. They end up like my father, who died at the age of 60 with lots of money and lots of status and no idea who he was. So I guess for us, we're happy to get out onto this community and for things to come up, and for us in a really loving environment, work them out. So I think that's how I'd finish, is by saying times are changing, and buckle up and take some responsibility, because not everybody's going to come out of this in such a great shape in the next little while.
No, agreed. And I'll add to the community thing too. Bruce Lipton sent out a newsletter recently, and he had spent a great deal of 2010. I think he said he was home for like 5 weeks, traveling the world. And what he has witnessed right around the world is these communities starting up, whether they're king communities based on, or the kingdoms based on the writings of Anastasia, or whether they're communities that have come up simply out of necessity in places where food is short, or jobs are non-existent, and people are starting to come together. Necessity is the mother of invention, so they say. So these things are coming up, or by choice. People are feeling the desire and the need and the pull to get back to Mother Nature, to get back to community. And they're just springing up all over the country. I know, all over the world, but I know of several that are starting up here in Australia. As we speak, they're in the groundworks, and many that are already established.
It's amazing. I saw a thing with Jamie Oliver a few years ago where he went to the north of England on a schools project, and he was holding up a garlic, for instance, and none of the kids knew what a garlic was. Then a broccoli. None of the kids even knew where their food was. Their potato all came in the shape of smiley faces. Their diets were appalling. So people are so removed from where their food came from. And let me say, the Queensland floods has been a big eye-opener for a few people in terms of how reliant they are on the system. Because supermarkets emptied out. And even down here at Byron Bay, where I live, we weren't even affected by the floods, but the supermarkets still emptied out of all produce, milk and water. It was amazing to see. I will finish by saying, just quickly, and it's not fear-mongering, but I would store some food. We've stored about 9 months worth of food, Steph and I, and I can't tell you how nice it feels to just know it's there. It's like the old insurance saying, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And so we went and spent a few grand and just we stored up on lots of stuff like jarred tomatoes, chickpeas, protein powders, spirulina, rice. It's not going to be gourmet food, but when things change, they can change very quickly. And hopefully the Queensland floods and what's gone on in Egypt and other parts of the world will wake people up to that. I have Richard Yap staying with me. I think you know Richard.
Mm-hmm.
He was caught in Kuala Lumpur during some civil unrest there, and we were talking last night because I was caught in the Philippines when Ferdinand Marcos was in, and there was a little coup broke out, and within a few hours the banks shut, the airport shut, the supermarkets were emptied out, and there was gunfire in the street. So I mean, Manila is a big city, and I've seen firsthand how humanity can quickly disintegrate into survival, and when people have got hungry kids and they're hungry themselves, it's not a great situation. And
no, it can get very ugly very quickly.
With the imminent crash of the economies, there is going to be some unrest.
Oh, it's happening now. I mean, there are food riots in half a dozen places around the world right now. I've been talking to people in the US who say already things are getting to the point where they can't afford food. I've done interviews with George Kavasilis, which has been more of on the ascension side of things, and we've talked about preparation and storing food and trying to get off the grid and become independent. So yeah, I'm in agreement with you there that some food storage is even here in Australia. We feel so far removed from all of that.
Quite insulated.
Yeah, we do. But like you said, all it takes is a cyclone, like we've had in Queensland, or flooding, like we've had in Queensland, to change things very, very quickly. And there's more of that set to come. I mean, what day is it today? Friday, Tuesday, I believe, was the biggest solar flare recorded, as far as I know.
Yeah.
And it's due to hit today.
Okay.
And they're talking about power outs, communication outs. It might be why our internet connection's doing what it's doing. So, I mean, that's completely beyond our control.
Yes.
And if it was to take the power out, who knows how long it would take to put it back on. And how many people have got more than just a day's food in the fridge?
Absolutely. That's one question to ask people is, what would happen if the power went out? That's all that would have to happen. There'd be no ATMs, no petrol, no water. People don't realise in the big cities, where do you think the water is how do you think it's supplied? It's not gravity. It's fed by massive pumps. And the power going out would be a very big leveler.
Mark, let's leave people with some practical tips on what they can do. If you're being hounded right now by a credit card company or a debt collector, or you're getting, whether it's mail or phone calls or visits to the door, is there anything you can tell people that to give them some confidence in dealing with this? Because it's scary and it's intimidating and it's threatening, and it's meant to be, of course.
Yeah. Well, what they're trying to do is contract you, because the whole law system is based on contracting. And so it's quite powerful to hold a mirror up, I call it. So, for instance, if a debt collector or a bank calls, I used to have a big saying, and this is in the first instances of what we ask our clients to say, is something like this. Oh, gee, it's been a while since I did this, but look, that person can't come to the phone. Obviously, the person can't, because the person's dead, right? A person is a corporation, but look, that person can't come to the phone. However, you are invited to send anything that you have in the form of communication in writing, and in writing only, to PO Box, whatever it is. I don't consent to this phone call being recorded, nor do I consent to any other phone calls or emails. Everything in writing. If you do, I will be taking the full force of the law under the breach of the Trade Practices Act. Thank you and have a good day. And hang up. They'll try and engage you in conversation and contract, but essentially what you're doing is noticing them, put it in writing. As it's written, so shall it be done, because they will be recording the conversation trying to contract you. But if you want to have a bit of fun, and a lot of our clients, when they realise who they are and want to have a bit of fun, they might ring up and say, "Oh, hello, is Mark there?" Yes. So no, who's calling? Oh, it's Tracy from Citibank. Mark, we just need to confirm your full name, address, and date of birth. And I would say in return, great. Yeah, Tracy, you go first. And there'll be a pause on the other end of the phone. You say, Tracy, if you give me your full name, your home address, and your date of birth, then I'm happy to give you mine. And they say, "Oh, sir, we can't do that." We'll say, "Well, you rang me. You rang me out of the blue. How do I even know you're Tracy from Citibank?" And they'll hang up every time. So it's fun. And, the clients actually really enjoy being able to have a bit of fun with it.
And the reason they ask you those specific questions is because they need to get those 3 points of jurisdiction over you.
That's correct.
And it's the same whether it's a... Sorry?
They need you to joinder yourself to your agent in commerce or your corporation. That's what they're asking you to do.
Yes.
They don't know that. We've got police from state and federal level. We've got lawyers, and it's amazing that when they come across this information, they go, that's why we said things that way. Especially the police. They're trained to write their tickets with your name in all capital letters, yet your address can be in upper and lower case. They're trained to ask you, do you understand? They're trained to get your consent. The law cannot work without your consent. All you have to keep saying is, I don't understand and I don't consent. And it messes them up. But, I guess we just spoke quickly off air about just have a bit of fun with it, because all they're trying to do is contract with you. And if you know who you are, you get them to put whatever their claim is in writing and make them commercially liable under penalties of perjury. It shortens them up pretty quick.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And please, again, everyone, go to Truthology and have a look. See if you resonate with the information that Mark's trying to share with you. And thanks again, Mark.
All right. Thank you.